Okay, so we're doing all right. Um, I was still, you know, in the same position I was in prior to us getting married, as far as finances and being an active member of the relationship. We just sort of coexisted in the house together. He did calm down um, with the drug use for a couple of months. Um, then we moved from our home. We downsized considerably. Space was a big issue that I had for, with Braden. It was a concern that I had for him with his different issues and disabilities. He needed a yard to play in. He had to have a yard, and he needed space because confinement or small areas and clutter and things can cause physical reactions as well as mental in children like Braden. He readjust here. Um, I began having serious problems at this time with my health. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer and endometriosis almost simultaneously, uh, both of which require surgeries. So, um, my health was starting to fail at this point, and Braden had stopped going to therapies because I don't know why our finances were starting to be too little, and I wasn't sure why because I wasn't supposed to know. It wasn't discussed with me until it got, like I said, to a certain point. Uh, so Braden stopped going to his therapies, and I still spent most of my days researching and learning. And Braden actually started school, and we had a huge problem with the school that he started attending. I would take him to school and pick him up every day. Um, oh my gosh, the school was crazy. I went up to school one day to drop him off, and I watched him walk into the hallway, made sure he got in the building, and his teachers had him and everything, and drove away. And then I realized when I got to the house that I had forgot to send him with his lunchbox. So I turned around and went back up to the school, and I walked into the hallway, and I peeked into his classroom window, and that's when I saw my little boy strapped into a chair. He had these bands, belts over his shoulders, and a tray that had him locked in to his seat that was like up to here on him. I lost my cool at that point. Why is my son sitting strapped into a chair? Why? So I was able to maintain my composure enough to go directly to the principal and not kick in the door of the classroom and freak out on the teacher in front of all the other children. I said, okay, I'm just going to go to the principal and we're going to talk about this right now. And I had him call down to her classroom and immediately send Braden up to me. Um, so that was a huge problem we had with his school, and I pulled him out of school at that point. He did not finish that school year, and I was actually considering homeschooling him at this point because that was really traumatic. That was I just felt so robbed of any trust for people that are supposed to be trained and certified to educate children like Braden, and they are strapping him into a chair. Their reasoning was this is modified. It's called modified seating, and it teaches him to sit down. I was like, my son knows how to sit down. And if you expect a child with autism to stay seated, then you are not very smart. So regardless, I was not going to allow my son to be a part of that school anymore. So took him out of school. He's not in therapies anymore. And then I ended up having a surgery for my cervical cancer. And it was a pretty big deal. I was in the bed. I could not walk or do anything for nearly a week. All I could do was get from the bed to the restroom, and that was it. And I needed help doing that. So my mom came to town to help take care of Brayden because there was no one locally that was capable of watching him. So my mom came to stay. And it was during this time that I believe he started using the meth again. My mom got to witness what was taking place. Once I started moving around a little bit, I was able to come out to the living room and lay on the couch and hang out with Brayden. Otherwise, I was confined in the bedroom and didn't really get to see him that much. So I came out into the living room and I was able to play video games and sing songs and stuff with him, and that made me feel considerably better. But it was at this time that Gene would start coming home. My ex would start coming home, and he would go directly past Brayden, by my mom, by me, and go into the bedroom and go into the master bathroom, and then you'd hear the shower turn on, and then you wouldn't see him again. He just stayed in the bedroom. And that's he started using meth again. He was coming home with it in his pocket, and he'd go into the bathroom to take a shower when he got off of work, and he would get high, and he would stay locked in the bedroom. He stayed locked in the bedroom because he didn't like for Brayden to look him in the eye while he was high. But instead of taking the time to play with him and maybe then going to get high, he just went directly to go get high. So I am in the middle of finding out I have cancer, having this issue with Brayden's school, trying to figure out maybe possibly homeschooling him, and my ex, my husband, is starting to do drugs again. I just thought, wow, this is not the situation I want to be in. And then it all kind of clicked for me, the reason that we downsized like we had, all the financial stuff that had been happening, it started to click, because he's back in the scene. And we were also served an eviction notice. I was at home one day and I got a knock on the door, and a police officer handed me an eviction notice. I had no idea what it was about. Apparently the rent had not been paid and we were being evicted. So I actually called his dad at that point, and I said, you know what, I don't know what's going on, but I've got an eviction notice in my hand, and maybe you should call him and talk to him because he won't talk to me about our finances and what's going on. So he and his dad talked, and apparently it just got worked out. I have no idea what happened. It's still public record that we got served the eviction notice. That was really the only thing that my name was ever on, was a lease, because I was living there too. So my name was on the lease too, but it's not a public record, I don't think, against me for having that. So here comes meth back into our lives. I've got cervical cancer. Brayden is not doing great. And then I'll continue on the next video from there. Thanks for sticking with me.